going to call the meeting to order at this time. And first of all, we met in closed session, and there are no items to be reported. So let's all stand, and I would ask Isabella if she would please lead us in the flag salute today.
Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you all for being here with us today. I know some of you may not have a choice, but in any event, thank you for being here. Public comment. Per Board Policy 2350, any person may address the board at this time either on an agenda item or other matters of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker, with a maximum time of 15 minutes per item unless otherwise extended by the board. So, do we have any comments today concerning items on the agenda? Apparently not. Do we have public comments today concerning items not on the agenda? All right, none as well. Let's get started with our reports, and we're going to start with our student, Isabella.
So for Student Senate, recently we went to an event for the Visalia Latino Rotary. I believe we had a full table there. Our Student Senate participated in the costume contest. We took pictures with all of them. And then also too, we are going to be participating in the Christmas parade. Our theme is going to be How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and our Commissioner of Publicity is going to be the Grinch. So I think that'll be fun. And then I believe next week we have our General Assembly meeting in Sacramento, so we'll be voting on policies and all of that kind of stuff. And right now, our student ambassador, Charlie, he is working with SCCC, so the community colleges are voting on different acts that they want to take to the state level based on the needs and the desires of students. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, board member reports. Starting to my left.
I attended the graduation ceremony for the police academy in Hanford a week or two ago. I can't remember exactly who it was. And I noticed a couple things that I didn't realize I'd like to pass on to those of you who in the future may be counseling young women on career choices. Not everybody wants to go into law enforcement, but for those that do, many of them are women. Well, we had about, 40 or 45 graduates up on the stage. And the custom is that the graduates are all in their COS cadet uniforms, except those cadets who have landed jobs, who have positions. And they wear the uniforms of the agency they're going to, and they are get their badges pinned at that ceremony. Well, I didn't count them, but my recollection is of the 40 or 45 students, about 10 were women. My recollection was about 14 of them got jobs. 9 of the 10 women were those that got jobs. Now, I don't know if it's a forever or just a current trend. It would appear that women cadets may have an advantage over men cadets in getting jobs, and so rather than discourage young women from doing that, because it's a men's world, maybe it's not a men's world. I also went to attend a meeting here at the college regarding accreditation. I won't go into great detail because I know that Jennifer and Stan know that well. But one thing I did observe is that I was encouraged. Accreditation is always something to dread. It can have positive results, of course, but it's just a horrible experience. But what I gathered out of this is there maybe is a new sheriff in town, and it seemed to me that the tone of the accreditation commission is much friendlier than there was before. And from a layman, I came away with that, not having any doubts about that. I look forward to hearing probably other things that develop since then on that topic as well.
Thank you.
No report.
No report?
None.
No report? No report? No report? Thank you. All right, Mr. Foster has a foundation report, I'm sure.
Just a brief one, sir. We started our scholarship application process. So the applications for scholarships is now open. We have until November 27th for people to turn in. Our initial marketing efforts seem to be pretty effective, though. So far, we have 1,630 applications initiated, which is a 21% increase over last year, same time. And we also have 201 of those have already been submitted. So they're already turned it in, and that is 23% better than last year this same time. So we did an initial effort of getting a bunch of applicants started, and then we have that captured audience that we can start saying, you need to get it done, this is how you get it done, you need to get it done. So we're hoping to get a larger completion percentage on a larger initiation number as well. Applications for the project funding, foundation project funding is also open. This, if you recall, is the opportunity for the board to select projects that are submitted by faculty and staff to better the district's pursuit of the district objectives or just flat out student success. And so this is another year in which the board has allocated $120,000 for such projects. And those projects would include the projects that are submitted through our application process or the projects that do not receive funding through the ranked above base process that the district holds. So that will all happen at the end of spring or middle of spring. I just wanted to make sure that you folks were aware that the foundation is opting out of participation in the Hanford Christmas tree auction this year. That's been a long-standing tradition of ours. However, the event was not well attended last year, and with the new pavilion at the Hanford Center, we want to change our investment in our time in putting together some events that will draw community members and some resources to the Hanford campus in that way. So we are simply doing that. So if you hear anything on the street that the COS is not participating in an event, that is why. We are focusing on drawing community to the Hanford College Center in the spring. And finally, we have the Power of the Purse this Thursday. We have plenty of purses. We have a lot of purses. We're looking forward to that. So we have more than enough purses. We've sold out on our attendance. We sold out this over the weekend. We have 5 scholarship recipients that are actually going to be attending, 2 of which will be addressing the crowd and speaking a little bit about their story. So as long as the attendees come to buy, we're gonna do well at surpassing our goal of $25,000.
Questions for Mr. Foster?
I noticed when you were talking about Hanford, you kept looking at me to see what I applaud you for doing that. You know, the Chamber of Commerce, and I've said this publicly in Hanford, Chamber of Commerce is going through some leadership challenge, and there's no point in tying a wagon to an organization that's not generating the bodies, and the fact that you decided to do something else, I applaud.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good, thanks, Tim.
Jim. Next up is our accreditation report, Dr. Lacerna.
Good
And I
evening.
think she's going to tell us she really enjoys this part of her job.
Yes, I love it. So the accreditation work group sent out a draft of Standard 3, which is our resources, human, physical, fiscal, and technology to the COS community this past week, and we're expecting feedback by the end of November, and we will be sharing the last section, Standard 4, in December. And we have confirmed, the ACCJC has confirmed that our site visit will be Monday, October 8th through Thursday, October 11th, 2018. So you can mark your calendars for that now. And as Trustee Zumwalt mentioned, Dr. Stephanie Droker, who is one of the vice presidents for ACCJC, was here at COS on November 7th for a pre-accreditation site visit meeting and workshop. She shared the current status of the ACCJC and clarified a lot of information for us on the self-study and our site visit. She met with the senior management team, the distance education committee, and shared information at Open Campus Forum. So a couple of the important points that we took away was, first of all, the ACCJC is now assigning one of their 3 vice presidents to serve as a liaison for each college. They are going to walk through the entire accreditation process with the colleges that they're assigned to, including attending the site visit and serving as a resources for the peer review team while they're here. So lucky for us, Dr. Troker has been assigned to College of the Sequoias. So we are the very first college to do this pre-site visit meeting with our assigned VP liaison. So we're the model now, and she was here. And so that means she'll be putting together our team. She'll be selecting the team members, the team chair. She will focus on folks that will, make sense for us, that will understand our college. And then she will be on this, she'll read our report. She will be here with us in October, and she will help guide the team through their visit. The second thing another point that she made was that the ACCJC is moving some of the language from where we always talked about, does the college meet the standards? Does the college meet the standard? To how does the college align with the standard? Understanding that all colleges are trying to meet the standard, there's various points of meeting the standard, but how do we align with those standards? And so when we look at our improvement plans, they should address what we hope to do to further align with the standard. We also talked at length about distance education, and one of the points that she brought up is that one of the standards talks about providing equitable services for distance education students and students at other campus sites. And she clarified that that should be comparable services, not necessarily equitable services. So just because you don't have to provide every single thing to every single student, as long as they have access to the main points that are covered in the standards, which are orientation, assessment, placement. Those are the main things that we need to provide for our distance ed and other students. The other thing she talked about was budget allocations, and that when we can, that they should promote innovation at the college, and that when the site team's here, we should be able to take a budget allocation and trace it all the way back to our program review or our strategic plan. And one big takeaway, last takeaway for us, was on the quality focus essay. That's a new component of our self-study, which requires us to write an essay on something that we're doing at the college to improve student learning and student achievement. Initially, that had been described to colleges as an improvement, how we're making improvements or how we're going to improve something. But she clarified that they've adjusted that, and it really is an opportunity to focus on what we're doing to improve student learning and achievement, and that not to point out an area we're not doing well in, but to show what we're doing well. And so, for example, the guided pathways work that's coming down from the new state initiatives could be one of the components a college talks about in their quality focus essay. In addition, I wanted to let you know about our strategic plan, that we have finished the draft one of the objectives and are getting ready to the task forces are now working on drafting the actions, and we will be presenting that draft document at the board retreat in January. And finally, there was a webinar on the back page of your handout with Dr. Richard Wynn, the president of ACCJC. And I think, as Trustee Zumwalt stated, the key to that for me was that it really showed the changing face, the changing leadership of the ACCJC. And he even spoke of the peer review process moving from the current 120 standards we have to 14 elements, or what he liked to call points of light, that we will eventually look at, which would be nice to go from 120 to 14. Included in your handout is some of the work that the ACCJC is doing to respond to the work of the 2 task forces. So Task Force 1, that was working on how to make the ACCJC stronger. And so to improve clarity, responsiveness, and support for the field, they have developed short-term goals with things like providing peer reviewer training, putting together the ACCJC conference, and simplifying processes like the substantive change, and then long-term strategic planning like the vice president model that I spoke about, and advocating for community colleges at the federal level. So there's a list on the back there that he shared with us at the webinar. That is the accreditation report. Are there any questions? Yeah.
There was talk a few years ago of doing away with this organization as the accreditation firm.
Is that still going, or are they got their act together?
I think it's twofold, Greg, yes. If you look at the back of the report that Dr. Lacerna has put together, the short-term goals under that ACCJC Work Group 1 of CEOs, these are all the things they're doing to use your term, better have their act together now. And so those things are happening right now. So for as long as we have the ACCJC, they're going to be a better institution based on everything that we're hearing now and the structures they're putting in place. The long-term strategic planning, there's a second group of CEOs statewide still working with WASC and WASC Senior to study kind of the feasibility of some sort of a transition to move to an accrediting agency that would also include the accreditation of four-year colleges along with community colleges. They've told us statewide that's about an 8 to 10-year process, but that process is underway. And if you look at the ACCJC's most recent decision to hire Dr. Wynn to lead that organization, he came from having served 13 years with WASC Senior. So he's coming from the organization that this association is talking about moving toward. It's just a lengthy process, Greg. In the meantime, we want to make sure we've got a really good functioning ACCJC. So I think right now we're getting the best of both worlds, an improved current commission process and a continual effort long-term to look at what it would take to make a transition.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. All right, next up is Superintendent President's report.
I would like to defer my time this evening for a special presentation. I'd like to ask Dean Jessica Figallo to come up and make an introduction for us. We have guests here this evening who were excited about recognizing College of the Sequoias earlier this year. We were unable to travel to where the recognition was taking place, but they graciously offered to come when it was appropriate and take a moment at a board meeting to present that recognition for our college here. So, Jess?
Perfect. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to
I'm
introduce.
sorry, Jessica Morrison. I called her Figallo.
I'm not
That
the
was
only
a-
one.
That
You
was,
just,
yeah.
you
that
just
was-
confused our
that was
guest
a, that
big
was a
time, but
slip right there. Jessica Morrison, okay.
I'll respond to anything. So without taking much time away from our lovely students that are here, and I want to introduce the Superintendent of Butte County Office of Education, Tim Taylor. He's traveled from Butte County today to come and share a little bit about our special collaboration with Minicore out of Butte County and College of the Sequoias. Tim.
Well, thanks for having us tonight, and we're very honored to be here, and we have a nice award for you. And before that, though, we'd like to give you a little background on the history of Minicore, especially here at the college. I'm a county superintendent, just like Mr. Vidak is over here, and I came into this job and got to realize that I have one of the best programs in the history of education called the California Minicore. So if you go back to 1966, the federal government was pushing California to provide migrant education to kids because they were on the fields working and getting no schooling at all. And so our county and actually Fresno County were the first two counties to pilot providing Title I services and tutoring to kids out in the fields. Our program was in Gridley, a migrant labor camp there that was very large. The following year, the state said, how about we try to help get these kids into college? Who would like to do it? And we had an assistant superintendent who was kind of had a crew cut, white shirt, and lived in Gridley himself. Said, well, Butte County can do it. So we really, with no plan or how to do it, we started to partner with Chico State University, and in 1967 started the Minicore program, where we take college kids that are migrant kids and we help them become teachers, counselors, or help them just graduate. It's a beautiful program. Ironically, the first coordinator of that program was Dr. Berta Gonzalez from Fresno State. And she was actually teaching out here in Fresno, somewhere in the valley, and had just graduated. So when we got the award, the Butte County, the Dean of Students for Chico drove in her car all the way down because she knew who the one was to get this started. And it was Berta Gonzalez, who really has gone on to do a ton of great things. She's actually taken this Peace Corps, Mini Corps model and is working down in Texas and helping South American countries with medical corps. But she was at Fresno for years and helped start that. We are now at 22 colleges throughout California. We have this year 450 college kids who are in our Mini Corps tutors, and what they do is they go out and tutor Mini Corps or migrant students in schools while they're getting their teaching credential. They get a little extra support, they take extra classes, and it's truly, I think, the premier program for pipelining bilingual teachers. In fact, we've taken this model at our county office and now are doing it with foster youth and also bilingual non-migrant students. We're partnering with about 5 counties, the state, and the foster program is dear to my heart. We're taking foster kids out of high school and piping them into teaching jobs, and we use the same exact model we use for this program. For college, the program started in 1983, let me put notes here, by Leona Cerna, and she's now up at Porterville. But she started the program here, came to this board meeting in 1983, probably before you kids were born. You guys approved this right after Porterville started, and we're also, so we have those 2 programs here and also 2 in Bakersfield State and Fresno State. So down here we have some of the largest programs. And now Rosalba Marquez is here, and we have a couple students that want to speak to you, and then we'd like to give you an award. But it's really a wonderful program. We'll be giving you some materials on it, but we're so thankful for our relationship with Sequoia, and I'll come back and give you guys your plaque after we have a couple students say something, because that's what you're here for. I did forget one thing. It was officially approved, the whole program, by the federal government in 1972 by none other than Senator Joe Biden. So Biden has actually signed our original document to use these federal funds for the pipeline of teaching. So I saw that on my notes, I forgot to tell you that.
Well, good evening, everyone. I appreciate the time you're allowing us to come and show our gratitude for the great support COS have provided our Mini Corps program. I have been feeling as a COS member since the first day I walked into the Sequoia building to organize my office back in 2011. The following students, tutors, will be sharing with you a few words about the program and how it has supported them professionally and personally. So we have Gabriela Leso here. We have Sebastian Setian, and then we have Gisela Espinosa, and we have Francisca Vega. So they'll be sharing a little bit about their experience.
Good evening. My name is Gabriela, like she just introduced me right now. This is my 4th year at Mini Corps, being a Mini Corps tutor. One way that I can say it has really personally helped me is getting ready to become a teacher, future teacher. That's what I'm going to school for. I'm a senior at Fresno State right now. And just today, I can give you an example of how it's been helping me. Just today, I did my lesson plan for my 3rd graders. And the support we get is amazing. Rosalba was there. The principal at the school was there helping, just feedback, giving feedback. And the supervising teacher as well. So I feel like this program has helped us so much to get ready to what we're going to be doing later on in the future, to be future teachers. So I feel like that's how it personally has helped me as a Mini Corps tutor. Thank you.
And just to clarify, we have 18 tutors in our program, and then we get to select 2 that are transfer students from COS to stay with us so that they can model after the freshman and sophomore. So she's one of the seniors, and then Sebastian is also a senior.
Okay, very good. Good afternoon. Thank you for letting us be here. I would like to share part of the goal that the Mini Corps has, and it's the program is to provide priority services for migrant children and who have had their education interrupted during the school year and who are falling behind. And when I was growing up, I was one of those students. My parents worked in the fields, and they couldn't help me in my home. And alongside came my teachers, my third and fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Ortega and Ms. Delgado, and they helped me flourish and become who I am today. This program has made me and helped me to go back to the community that I came from and work alongside them. And today I'm in one of their classrooms, and it's a great opportunity for students to see how you could help other students who are not fortunate enough to have tutoring after school or have the opportunity to personal mentor to help them. And this is the professional that it has helped me, and the personal way that it helped me is through last year my mom had passed away from cancer, and my community here helped me get through that, and it's been an awesome opportunity to be in this program and to be with COS. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Francisca Vega. I'm born in Mexico, and I'm a DACA student. This is my third year being a part of the COS college, Minicore tutor. Minicore has helped me professionally and personally in many ways. Before I was a part of the Minicore program, I was working a full-time job at the mall, and I was taking 1 or 2 classes per semester because my job at that moment only allowed that. Had it not been for Minicore, I believe that I would still be at that same job and probably still trying to get my associates. One of the requirements to be in the Minicore program is to be a full-time student. I'm so grateful for that because I was pushed to put my education first. Minicore not only allowed me to put my education first, but I was able to do it while I gained hands-on experience at a school. As I started tutoring migrant students, I was able to learn what type of teacher I wanted to be one day. Before Minicore, my educational goal was to become a teacher. However, as time went on and I started meeting people that had once been in the program and hearing their success stories at the CAVE conference, I was inspired. I could relate to the hardships they had growing up, and I told myself, hey, they grew up just like me and they're impacting lives right now. At that moment, I told myself, I know I can make a difference being a teacher, but I also knew I can make a bigger difference in a leadership position. And because of that, I was inspired to not only be a great teacher, but to pursue a position in administration. I want to be a role model to minorities and show them that they too can succeed in any career field, and I believe through my experience and knowledge I gained in the program, I'll be able to do that one day. I'm truly honored to be a part of the College of the Sequoias Minicore program, and thank you for your support.
And she just finished COA here. She's finishing and she's ready to transfer to Fresno.
Good evening, all. I am Isela Espinosa, and I was born in Mexico, and I came here back in 2005. And at first, I had no clue I was gonna go to a college because of my status. This is actually my second year enrolled in the Minicore program, and first of all, I am honored to share how the Minicore program has benefited me in personally and professionally. Personally, Minicore has helped me to grow in many ways. I would have never thought that I would have stand in front of all of you, but because of Minicore has helped me to be outgoing. It has taught me to give every opportunity a chance. I am here, and I am here before you. Minicore gives me the opportunity to network with professionals that have the same passion as I do, which gives me the opportunity to have someone who guide me in my career, keep me motivated, and give me the advice not only in my career but also in my personal life. I can surely say that the opportunities that Minicore offers makes me a better person. Now, professionally, Minicore has benefited me as I've gained many different experiences. In the past 2 years, I've worked with 6 different teachers, and each one of them has teach differently. I have been able to grasp different teaching strategies and also classroom management. I'm able to apply those classroom managements and keep track of which ones would work best for me in the future. And also, we have monthly workshops, and those provide us. I would want to say that they're very. Give me a second. Sorry. Very basic. They're very basic but very professional and but very important professional skills, such as being on time, being prepared, and being professional and having professional attires. These workshops also gives us activities and strategies to work with students in just about every subject. This past summer, I did some puppetry, and I must say that it was a challenge for me at first because I am a shy person, but I am glad I did it. This experience brought me great communication skills, collaboration and teamwork skills, time management, leadership, flexibility, and conflict management. Mini course has prepared me to be a professional teacher, future teacher. I am thrilled to be in the mini core program because it is building me to be a competent candidate to become a teacher. I am tremendously thankful to College of Sequoias for their such support of the great program that they have in the campus that brings extraordinary opportunities. Lastly, I'd like to thank the mini court staff as they are great role models for us. Thank you.
Wow, I asked her if she was nervous. She was not nervous at all. So our county office has, as you know, we're in Oroville, so we've had the dam. We evacuated our whole county. We had 3 fires. It's been a rough year, so it's great to get out and see students again instead of do disasters. But we have 2,100 employees in 58 counties with 800 business and community partners. And on behalf of our county office, I want to say from all of us, the College of Siskiyou support of Mini Corps is not just the fact that you helped send some of our students down to the CABE conference. That was an eye-opening experience for kids to go to Anaheim and be with 5,000 other educators and also participate in our 50th. But it's just the daily support. You can tell when you walk in an office and talk to staff like I did today, how much support we get. We have other colleges where we can barely find a key to get into the office, right? So we really do cherish that. Rosalba was very humbled when we picked you guys as our community partner of the year. And on behalf of our county office, I want to give this to the president, and thanks for having us
I want
today.
to ask Dean Morrison to come up, please, and accept this on behalf of.
I'm going to
College of
embarrass her right now because she told me. So I'm staying downtown, and I went over to the Fox. I go, what a cool place. And I go, hey, they're showing Saturday Night Fever on Wednesday. She goes, if you don't tell anybody, I'm actually going. And she's got a full outfit, so I don't know what that involves. Like bell-bottom pants or something.
Thank you, Tim.
Listen,
Thanks so very much. Thanks for taking it right up.
Mr.
Question.
Yes.
Don't leave, Tim.
Okay.
Now, all of these
Students don't need
people
to
that
share.
are involved with this, are they going to become teachers?
Yeah, we have 10,000 alumni, and we're doing a data source going back to 67, see how many actually became teachers. But I would say of our 450 that we have throughout the state, about 95% go on to teaching. 5% go into other fields. So it's a beautiful thing.
Good. Now, where are these students working?
Yeah, what schools are they at?
I work in Farmersville in elementary school. It's called Freedom Elementary.
Well, I wondered where the lone male was there.
I work at Wilson Elementary in Dinuba. I'm currently working at Jefferson Elementary. It's a charter academy school bilingual, and it's in Hanford. I also work at Dinuba, Wilson Elementary.
Tim, I want to
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Oh,
And
sure.
I can't tell, I don't know that I can express how grateful I am that you came here today and you brought these students. I know just speaking for me, and I think I probably speak for the other board members, you know, I've been on the board for about 9 years, and sometimes, you know, you ask yourself why, and it's times like this that makes it all worthwhile. And I just, as somebody who came to this country at age 9 and attended about 6 elementary schools in a 2-year stretch. Unfortunately, I was 25 years too early for Mini Corps.
Or you might have
And
been
so-
a teacher.
Yeah. And so, you know, I have to say that I really didn't know a lot about the program, and boy, I'm gonna keep my eye on it now for sure. So, thank you again for
Anytime.
taking the long drive down here.
I was
And,
impressed with
and-
every one of them. They were outstanding.
Yeah. No, every June, we have all 450 come together for a banquet. We've had it's at Sonoma State last year. You walk in the room with these 450 future kids, our future it really humbles you. And they're beautiful kids, and you can tell they come from very diverse backgrounds and wonderful kids.
Just want to share, one of the main impacts about the program is, I was a mini Corps tutor, just like them, back in Porterville College, and my coordinator was actually Leonor Serna, the one that started here at COS, the program at COS, and she was my role model. She was everything to me, counselor, mother, professor, everything. And then now, I see them, and I see myself. I see myself. Here they are, and in a few years, she actually just got an offer at the district. So,
Well, years ago, I don't know if you were even remember or recall the teacher corps that they had. And I was a mentor for one of their students. And I am so happy to see that out of the group that we had, maybe one ended up in education. The rest of them got their masters and went on to other things. But I am so happy to see that this program is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And you're to be congratulated, all of you. You will make a difference.
Yeah, the only thing these children did wrong is not one of them knew what Saturday Night Fever was.
They're not supposed to.
That made me feel so old. They're like, who's John Travolta?
Right.
You know? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Awesome.
Okay, wow, how do we follow that? All right, next up, under reports is the Academic Senate report, and I don't see Dr. Trimble here today, so we're gonna move on. And following that is the Costa report update. Mr. Hurst?
Yeah, if you'll pardon me for not wandering up there, I just wanted to do a brief shout out, shine a brief spotlight on one of our professors, Professor James Espinoza, who organized, just a few weeks ago, he organized an immigration conference here on campus, and he's been a tireless supporter of Puente and some of our underserved students. He's receiving an Ethnic Minority Leadership Award November 30th from the Tulare King Service Center Council, and I just wanted to say I'm well proud of him, and we've got some great people here doing some really good work, just like these future kids are going to do that.
All right, thank you. Very good. CSEA report, Mr. Lamar.
No report, but like you, I was inspired.
Thank you. COSAFA update. I don't see,
She sent an email that she couldn't make it.
okay,
No report?
That's her apologies.
all right. Next item, I believe it's just an announcement for informational purposes regarding the board's organizational meeting, which will take place during the next board meeting on December the 11th. So with that, we'll move on to the information items part of the agenda. And first up is Dr. Lacerna, who has an introduction to make.
Yes, and it is very appropriate that we have Fresno State here today on the night that we're talking about Mini-Core, and you can see the strong connection we have with our campus and the Fresno State campus and their teaching program. And so tonight, I want to really thank Dr. Luz Gonzalez, the Dean of the Fresno State Visalia campus, and Dr. Fred Nelson, who is the Associate Professor of Science Education, who is the lead on our teaching program that's starting at Fresno State in the fall. And we've asked them to come today and provide an update for us. And so I want to invite them up and thank them, and I think get them.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, trustees, for having us here today. I'm going to make my presentation brief because I really want to devote a little bit more time to Dr. Nelson, who's going to talk about the liberal studies with the the liberal studies with the multiple subjects blended teaching credential, which is our second baccalaureate degree at the Visalia campus. And there we go. You gave us the honor, along with the leadership of President Carrizosa, of giving us that building across the street. And I wanted you to know that in the year that's gone by, we've done some wonderful things already that you should know about. We created priorities for the campus, and that includes, we'd like to have by 2021 5 baccalaureate degrees and master's degree programs. Right now, we have the Accelerated Bachelor of Science in Business Administration that started this August. We started with a cohort of 10 students because we were late coming out of the gate to promote it. And one of the things that sort of slowed us down is that I was trying to find different ways to make this degree more affordable to our students here in the Valley. So we started that degree. It is a lot more affordable. We have our students eligible for Pell Grants and so forth. And then came the Bachelor of Arts in Liberal Studies with a blended teaching credential. So it took a little bit of time to get a grant approved for us to start that process, and Dr. Nelson will tell you more about it. But the other thing that was really important to me, having grown up in Tulare County and commuted to Fresno for a number of years to a Bible college and then to Fresno State, was support for our commuter students. And one of the things that I did, working in collaboration with other deans and approval from the president, I was able to offer courses here on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for commuter students attending College of Fresno State. And they are taking courses in all 4 areas of the upper division general ed. All students, regardless of their major, will have to take courses in these areas. So we have about 200 plus students already enrolled this fall semester, and we have others coming in the spring. And I always say to the deans, if we can cut the commute by 1 or 2 days a week for our students, I think that's a win-win for everybody. And then, of course, professional development opportunities. We have to be very careful. We don't want to step on College of the Sequoias' toes because you do a lot of those. So we've been offering some in the areas of Adobe, and so forth. But grant writing is one that you don't offer, so we're going to start offering more of those. And then we're hoping probably by spring I can start getting faculty to come and give lectures here. I've always liked the idea of offering our senior citizens lifelong learning opportunities. I wanted to, in your packet that I gave you, you can just go through that. These are the 23 campuses that the California State University has, and there's a handful of satellite campuses in Fresno State. For us, it's the first one here in collaboration with you. And I just wanted you to sort of see the universities that have those satellite campuses or centers where they are offering different degrees. We are probably way ahead of the game because we're focusing on baccalaureate degrees, not just through extended education, paid separate, but through stateside as well, running concurrently with the regular semester. So the ABA, the Accelerated Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, we started it again this fall. We're already starting the recruitment process for August of 2018, and I suspect we'll have about a 40 cohort enrollment at that time. And so it's a 17-month program. We're offering it Wednesday evenings and Saturdays because we know that there's individuals that can't go to school 5 days out of the week. Hybrid courses, that means some of it is online, some of it is face-to-face and online. Exceptional instructors, and of course financial aid is available. And I do have to say to you that President Castro and the provost agreed to fund me close to $200,000. We upgraded 2 classrooms at the Visalia campus and 2 at Fresno State, so we're fully online, fully distance learning capable, no more glitches and so forth. We have multiple cameras and mics and all the technology that today exists for distance learning instructions, and I've offered it to you folks here. Although I don't know about next semester, he's gonna take up a lot of space. We're hoping to outgrow it at some point. And so I'm gonna stop here because he's gonna carry it, but I just wanted you to know at the very end, we have some funding priorities that I've been fundraising, being very careful along with our Director of Development. The Dean's Innovation Fund, it's basically more about funding the development of more undergraduate programs. I'm working with your Dean of Nursing and your Director, this is the last 2 pages, and your Director of Nursing on an RN to BSN. And I'm working through Fresno State, but I've also said that if Fresno State can't get their online RN program up and running quickly, I've presented them with other options that we can pursue as a South Valley community. And of course, the criminology degree that you were mentioning, I want to be able to have it here so that students can do the baccalaureate degree at the same time that they do the post, hopefully down in your Hanford Center. And then the student success, and this one is the one that I'm really excited about because I'm more excited about that one-time student grant to bridge the financial need. Oftentimes our students quit school because there's that one semester they can't afford. And so we're trying to raise some funding to bridge that gap. And we started this semester, the League of Women Voters gave us a $500 grant that we were able to award to a local student in the Abbott program that needed just that little bit of extra money to make it through the semester. So I'm going to make myself available for questions, but I'm really interested in my colleague here that's going to tell you about the liberal studies. Speaking of teachers, I was hoping those students wouldn't leave so that they can know that they can just go across the street.
Hi, everybody. My name is Fred Nelson. I'm a faculty member at Fresno State in the Crimmins School of Education, and I'm the chair of our Liberal Studies program. Now, when I moved to California, I did not know what liberal studies meant, other than it was kind of, maybe like a liberal arts degree. It's not that. Liberal studies is the preferred undergraduate preparation for those people that want to be elementary school teachers. And that's the program that we're going to be offering at the Fresno State Visalia campus in just a very few months, it seems like. So it's called the South Valley ITEP. You may be hearing about that. It means Integrated Teacher Education Program. And this is available for students to transfer to us at the end of their experience here at COS and to start taking all of their classes across the street at the Fresno State Visalia campus. We are working on our schedule right now for fall of 2018. Classes will be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And many of you are certainly familiar with that building over there. And so the traditional way that you become a teacher in California is you complete all of your undergraduate preparation. That usually takes about 4 years. And then a credential program, such as what we have at Fresno State, is usually about 3 more semesters. And then you get your teaching credential 5.5 years later. Well, we would like to streamline that. And so we have received some funding to develop this program. We want to start by making connections with the teaching pathways in high schools, where many of you are all working. And working with our linked learning pathways and teaching academies to really let those students in high school know we would like you to become teachers and we would like you to get there quickly. Lower division coursework would be done here at COS, and we've had many conversations with Dr. Vega Lacerna about how to make the advising streamlined for those students so that they can move very efficiently through the program, and then come to us, and they will complete all of their upper division coursework to achieve their liberal studies bachelor's degree, and all of the credential coursework to complete their what's known as their multiple subject credential. That's the elementary teaching credential at the Fresno State Visalia campus in just 2 years. So we've shaved a year and a half off of that timeline. We all know that there's a teacher shortage in this state. It's even worse in this part of the state. And we have designed this program to help address that. We want them to get into the classroom as soon as possible. I've been involved in teacher education for many years now and in several different states. And one of the first things that I noticed when I came to California and started working with students that want to be teachers here in the Central Valley is this call to serve my community. You heard that tonight with these mini-core students. They all want to go back and serve the community that brought them along. This program is designed to make that happen quickly, happen efficiently, and give them the opportunity to do the coursework, their student teaching experiences in their home communities where they want to teach. So this is what we're going to be starting next fall. You can see we've got a list of classes there. There's one summer when they will start their teaching credential coursework, and it's going to be an exciting ride. Now, an additional part of this is they can also achieve their bilingual authorization, which some of you mentioned teaching in a bilingual setting in Hanford. That's one of the schools that we're in conversation with as a student teaching placement when you get into your teaching credential program. So we're recruiting right now. We hope to have 2 cohorts of 30 students, 30 teacher candidates that'll be joining us next fall. And as you can see, that's 60 new teachers for the South Valley that'll be graduating in June of 2020. We're so excited about this. We're so excited about to have a space down here where all this can happen. And thank you for letting us come and visit with you tonight.
Thank you so much.
How many students can you handle over there?
That's a function of how many rooms I can squeeze from her.
Overall, not just your program, but overall.
Yeah. Well, you have to sort of calculate that everybody wants their programs to run on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So with his program there and the evening courses that I have for the commuter students, we're going to max out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we're looking at serving about 300-400 students at that point. And then comes the Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm booked Friday nights and Saturdays with the ABBA program. So maybe another 500 students we can safely fit. So I'm going to say once you start reaching 1,000 head count, then we're really going to ask you to let us build the second floor.
Well, we're looking
Thanks
at...
for warning us.
I heard about, I
Yeah.
read, okay, keep us in mind, yes.
We own a lot of property over there.
That's what I understand, I do, but, so that would be, and I think it's important. I think it's important, one of the things that is making this satellite campus sustainable and popular and respected, it's the commitment of College of the Sequoias and the opportunity, and I'm grateful for this, that we can also serve West Hills, Lemoore, and Porterville College. Because as you well know, once the students graduate, home isn't necessarily Visalia or Cutler or Rosie or Porterville. You have Porterville citizens working for your districts here. There are 5 individuals from Orosi, Cutler Orosi, 4 principals and a counselor working at Porterville Unified. And they all came to College of the Sequoias. They all went to Fresno State. So when it comes to the South Valley, I think we can think of ourselves as one big family. But about 1,000, and I think that we'll be asking for more space.
All right, anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. I'm certainly glad Dr. Castro and Stan have been able to get together. This is the first time since I graduated some years ago, that we've ever gotten any cooperation from Fresno State. And I personally want to thank Dr. Castro and you and all the staff. And from my experience with the education program years ago, it was keep you here as long as you can. Doing a 5th year, 6th year if possible. And I'm glad you're streamlining the program where someone can do it in 4 years. I did in spite of them, but it was a struggle. And because they just kept throwing barriers up. Oh, you can't take this until you've taken this and this, and, you know, so
Thank you.
I'm very pleased with what you are doing and our cooperation with you.
I think what the difference this time around, because I started teaching at Fresno State in 1989 and came to my hometown every weekend to spend time with my parents. And back then, when the center started here with President Welty in the early 90s, and I don't know who your president here was at the time, the incentive to commute, to take that drive on, and we had 99, that was the only freeway, was $1,000 of professional development to come here, teach a course, preferably an upper division liberal studies course, and then we could use it for conference presentations. So I jumped at the opportunity of teaching fall and spring. So I would come to this campus park, and I can't recall what classrooms I was in, but I taught. This time, and of course, you know, distance learning came around, and pretty soon nobody wanted to drive. They weren't offering us money. But the difference this time, aside from everything, is that you have a president with ties to Hanford, a superintendent president with ties to Dinuba, and a dean with ties to Cutler Rossi, Tulare County. And you also have a dean of education that from the moment he came on board, the commitment to teacher education, to Tulare and Kings County has been incredible. And so for him to be able to, develop a position for the chair of liberal studies and so forth, so that's another commitment. And then now it's catching, and pretty soon you have the dean of business saying, sure, take the accelerated bachelor's down there. So we are creating a buzz, all of us together, that I think is making all of the difference. And I'm excited that you students came back, because now you can tell others that if you apply this fall right now, and I think the deadline is November 30th is the last day to apply, you can actually transfer to the Fresno State Visalia campus right across and use the facilities here, because you were gracious enough to give us ID cards for our students. So you'll be able to come here, use the library and so forth, all the resources in addition to ours. Thank you, Vice President Brent Calvin, for that as well. So yes, and she left. Where is she? Here. Yes, thank you all. Yes.
One more thing, I'm glad to see you haven't lost any of your enthusiasm since that first night that,
Hey, look, man, you know Mexican women, man, we don't know, we just have a lot of energy. No, it's a love of the area. It's us as a community, and it's about legacy, and they'll remember us, Fred, for what we've done here, and you as well. So yes. And by the way, congratulations on your award. That's fantastic.
It's Cutler Rosa background, I'm sure, that gets your enthusiasm up.
Yes, I kept tomatoes for John Calendar in school, and worked for all the Armenians that planted tomato there. Still have herniated discs to prove it.
One thing I did want to mention is a message to our students that are here, is that one of the things that makes this program successful is we have a cohort scheduling model where you are in a group of 30 students that move through together. And addressing the issue of the you never finish fifth year, sixth year, seventh year, it's oftentimes a matter of access to the right courses. And when you join our cohort, we guarantee you a spot in the classes that you need to graduate. So that's our commitment to you all.
And
So.
when you spread the word to other students from College of the Sequoias, your director of foundation, the director has a scholarship for transfer students. And for some of these programs, he said he'd do a little bit more to support students. So can't go wrong.
All right.
Can't go wrong.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And by the way, we look forward to seeing Dr. Castro later on this month at our Tulare campus.
Ah, I have to come with him. Gotta make sure he knows how to get there.
November 27th.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right. More business. Mr. Bratch.
Good evening. We are well underway with our search for our next superintendent president. We are in week 5 as far as our recruitment goes. We open up this position on October 9th. The applications are starting to trickle in. We're at the stage of this recruitment in which we're looking to form our hiring committees. I've extended an offer to a number of campus entity individuals, and a number of people have accepted, but we're at the stage where we need some community representatives to serve on our community and college stakeholders hiring panel, and that's where the board comes into play. We need 3 individuals to serve on this very important panel, and I would ask the board to develop tonight some method in which we request and ultimately name 3 community members to be on this hiring panel. So this is tonight open for discussion, and it's only on for information, but just like to get some parameters from the board as to what direction we're going to go.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bratch. I have been giving this matter some consideration throughout this process, knowing that this point in time would come. And through this process, I have had some discussions with some of the other board members as to how we might go about this. And as president of the board, what I have decided to do is ask my other fellow board members to provide me, for each of them, to provide me with a list of possible appointees to the community and stakeholder panel. And as I recall, there are 13 individuals that will serve on this committee, and 3 of those would be appointed by the board, and it would come from the public sector. And so I would ask that each board member, as they see fit, to provide me with a list of potential appointees, and to do so by November the 30th, which would give me then a couple of weeks to review that list and make the appointment at our next regularly scheduled board meeting. So having said that, I would take any comments or other input from any other board member.
I think you've outlined something that worked well. I'm good with it.
I'm just going to clarify that you want to make sure also that we have spoken with them individually to make sure they can make the time commitment.
That
Have
each name that you give me, that you have made the contact with the individual and they have the time that what it will take and know the dates and that sort of thing. And I also should say that, and I'm not going to necessarily appoint one person from Hanford, Tulare, Visalia. I mean, there's other areas within the district that, it's kind of an open item at this point.
I think what's probably open, we didn't say it, but if there's someone out there that's interested, Ken has outlined how you get there. Contact one of us and convince us that you're the right guy, or that somebody else that you are advocating for a person.
Could I ask for just some an email that outlines just the dates? So that we could give to someone if we wanted to recruit someone?
forward.
A quick
Yeah.
forward. And just have the process, how it works, that one-page sheet that explains what's gonna happen and what their job will be if they take it on. Does that work?
Yeah, you got that, Mr. Brett?
And we need to let all of the people that, if they're, know that they have to be at every one of those meetings, because it's only, when they're interviewing candidates, they have to be at all of them, they
Yeah.
can't miss one.
If you're not at all of them, then you won't be allowed to attend any,
But
yeah.
You'll be asked to leave. We had that happen 6 years ago. We had to have somebody leave because they couldn't make one of the meetings.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pratt. All right, item 3. Now we get into the fun stuff.
Poor John.
No offense, John, no offense.
You didn't mean that quite that way.
Our president hinted that you might say that, Ken, so.
I said,
We
my
accounted
exact
stay
words,
together.
we can all leave for items 3, 4, and 5, except for Ken.
Okay, so tonight I'm going to give you a few updates, informational updates. We'll start with the quarterly update, which is for the quarter ended September 30th. And as you know, we do this once a quarter. We want to update you and let you know a few more details of where our budget is at. So if you'll look here at this first budget versus actuals, this is September 30th. And the left column, if you can scroll down just a touch more, actually, yeah, I just wanted to see that, 637. At the bottom, we adopted a surplus of 637,000. And at this point in, nope, I'm going to jump back. Sorry, folks. This is actually going to show you, this is not something we bring to you quarterly. This is our closeout of 16-17, also presented as part of our quarterly report tonight. So our final adopted budget showed a surplus of 637,000. There was movement up and down throughout the year. The 1.59 million was the final working, but as we closed with 3.3 million, almost 3.36 over what we had budgeted. So I wanted to tell you a little bit more of what comprised that. A lot of that was, as we closed the year, we opened this year, you might recall, with a $1.9 million surplus. We knew we were gathering and protecting those funds as best we could for our negotiation sessions here this fall. But I wanted to break down what went into that 3.3 million. And our fiscal department gave you a lot of the details. If you can scroll down, or I can scroll as well. Yeah, let's do this, if this will work. Yeah. A lot of the details, but I took that and I went with a little more of a summary level. Before I move on, some of the details show things like the one-time Hanford Center funds, which were extra funds we got in 16-17. Now, I think we did repeat this posting, our apologies. So I'm going to go to this next page right here. So that's our 3.36 million, and as I went in and looked at specific items to try and identify what comprised that, the largest is that we grew by 400 FTES. Back on that more detailed report, you'll see we adopted 9,400 FTES, but we closed the year at 9,700. So, I'm sorry, that's 300 FTES. I wrote 400 up there. But we had an additional approximately 1.5 million there. The Hanford one-time funds, we actually had moved most of those funds out or spent most, so there was a little left over there. Our above base allocations, each year we try and get those spent by June 30th, but last year we had a few more capital projects type funds, so there's 140,000 there. Our technology department, usually not this much unspent, but with one dean retiring and a new dean coming in, we ended up with 182,000, and we decided to approve that carryover, which isn't our norm. Various departments also request carryover, and the other departments added to 56,000. Medi-Cal, you've heard of that every year. At least we're below 200,000. So we're really trying to get all our departments and divisions to spend that this year. It's these older funds that just keep carrying over. So it was about 260,000, I think, that last year.
And then remember that we also had a surplus as we closed, and the surplus the month before had been $239,000. We had some unspent salaries and benefits, and then a lot of our expenditures, as we close the year, we have to recognize, our auditors make us do this, if something is for an actual expense that will be, it's a prepaid expense, most of them subscriptions, for the next year, then we have to move it out of expense, move it up into a prepaid. So we had actually $867,000, but those are three of the larger items that comprise that. And then interest income. So it's not an exact total, but I did want you and everyone else to see those numbers there. So then we can move on to what is our regular quarterly report. And it's hard to follow all of this. Even our budget committee sometimes, their eyes get a little glazed over. But we really want to tell you what every change has been to our budget from month to month. So you can see the October 9th board meeting, we showed you a surplus of $96,000. And at this meeting tonight, when we did our cutoff, which happened to be November, it was actually back in October, but it's for November 13th, $12,600 deficit. Don't want you to worry too much about a deficit. We bounce right around a balanced budget. At this point in time today, we were at an $11,000 surplus. So, but for November 13th, we're right there at basically a balanced budget. And that's the unrestricted funds. If you look to the right, you can see the restricted budgets. And magically, we always balance expenditures with revenues. So there's usually no surplus. And then you can just go month by month, what were each of those individual changes. And if you get down to this, I wish I had a pointer here, sorry. This month that says general fund surplus, at the bottom it says November 13th. That shows you the changes this last month. And the largest being the COSAFA. Oh, she's got this one too. So many options. That being the COSAFA 4% increase, but then some other bumps up and down. I'm going to get double-fisted here. And then scrolling on down, again, it's every change that has occurred, but if you want to just look at November 13th, we have the expense changes that occurred there. Oh, my goodness.
Uh-oh.
Can I complain to our technology? Oh, no, I've got like 4 things to report. Did you hear his response? Okay.
14 minutes.
Okay, I'm going. That's actually good.
That's done on purpose.
Did he plan that? Okay. I don't know. Do you need this thing? Hide.
The
Yeah.
board had nothing to do with it.
I can't because I need it to scroll. Now, how come it's not going to the next? Let's see. The next item. Or did it just get mad at me? There you go, thanks. I'll let you scroll. So this is our financial report that shows fund balance and it shows cash. And the one we're mostly concerned about is general fund. These are both restricted and unrestricted. That again, with fund balance, showed how we closed the year at 16.2, almost 0.3 million, and that difference of 3.3 million that we discussed. Our cash is at 22 million as we close. This is June 30th, 2017. And then you could just go fund by fund, capital projects, farm special reserve, Linwood Reserve, and on down. That was June 30th, and if you can go ahead. This is now September 30th. And general fund is, we do show an increase, but don't pay any attention to that fund balance mid-year. It all depends on how we close the year. And cash, though, again, we're about 22 million. Capital projects, we've spent a little bit of what was budgeted there. Farm special reserve, we'd like to see that money there for our farm operations. What I wanted to show you was Linwood Reserve. You see that 2.25 million. Just a few days after September 30th, I think it was maybe the 11th of October.
Spent some of that, didn't we?
We did. We spent 1.9 million on the purchase of the Mooney Boulevard property. So you'll see that down to about 313 or 14,000. So all that to say, these are our different fund balances up here. A mid-year point fund balance doesn't really matter, but these are our cash balances. Very healthy there. So I think that might complete the quarterly. Is that right? Okay. You want to go on to the Yeah, sure. Okay, next, we'll move on to our quarterly report that actually goes to the state. It's much more succinct. This is for our first quarter, September 30th, and you can move on there. Primarily, what you want to look at, well, you can see trends here, actual revenues and expenditures, 14, 15, 15, 16, and 16, 17, and projected 17, 18. Let's see, where is, I'm trying to see, it's so small. Okay, oh, I think I see it. There's that 3.3 million, again, we talked about. That's as we closed out last year, and shows how we ended a fund balance with 26 million, about 28% there. This year, we're projecting actually spending a little more because we have this 90,000 surplus here, but we would project about a similar fund balance. But that 90,000 doesn't match what you saw on November 13th, but at September 30th, it was our actual. And then if you can scroll just a bit, our FTES shows you how we did close last year at 9,700. You might remember, we don't usually count growth, but we moved 88 FTES into this year in hopes of maybe reaching that 10,000. So we budgeted this year at 9,788. You can scroll down. This is cash. We're just always very happy to see no borrowed funds, but it's also very healthy to see how we've grown over the years with our cash. So Linda McCauley, who couldn't be here tonight, she's on vacation, but she said that for her first 8 or 9 years of working here, they always had to borrow cash. I thought it was just the few fiscal crisis years. So we're definitely in a much better place. So scroll down just a little bit further. This just analyzes the adopted budget versus the current working in a different manner. But again, you can see we adopted 1.93 as a surplus. And we spent most of that on salary and benefit increases. And so we're down to this 90,000 as a surplus at September 30th. And if you move on down, we have to answer, did we settle any contracts? So July 1st to September 30th, we did actually settle management, faculty, and classified. We have reported 4% for each, and we kind of dissected that 4% for faculty because it knows exactly where I'm pointing, doesn't it? Because they actually receive 5%. But what this dollar is for us to report to the county is it's the exact dollars from offering the 5% and then reducing the summer school pay budget. So it came out to that 4%, or very close to 4%. So that's what the county is asking of us. And there's the benefit portions. You won't see COSAFA here because it was settled right after the 1st of October. So that'll be next time. And I think that's it. No other items of fiscal importance or fiscal problems that we need to report. So trying to move fast. Any questions?
Yeah, take a breath right here.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the reason we had to borrow funds all those years is because the state was withholding the funds.
Definitely.
There might have been some delay.
That was part of it.
We had deferrals, we weren't receiving our cash. So we more regularly took out those tax revenue anticipation notes to bridge our cash flow.
Yeah.
Because of the state.
Yeah, that would have been almost 7 years right there, I think, or at least 6, yeah.
All right, very good.
Okay.
Any other questions for Christine? All right, if not, then on that item, we are moving to, I think she has the next item
Yeah,
on there.
the actuarial.
As well.
Yes.
The real
So we do, you okay?
biannual,
Somewhat biannual. They
yeah.
keep changing the rules on us. So we are required to complete an actuarial study of retiree health liabilities every 2 years. But now with new GASB promulgations, they call them, Government Accounting Standards Board, we now have to do a roll forward in the interim year. So what you're seeing right now is a roll forward. And we have some good news regarding our OPEB and our OPEB trust. OPEB stands for Other Post-Employee Benefits, which usually is how do we fund our retiree health and benefits. Just a reminder, we actually presented it last year because we were trying to be early adopters, but we've now moved to this GASB 75 mechanism. And what that does is it moves the reporting. When you see our financial reports at the end of this year, it will be on balance sheet and income statement instead of just being a note. So the problem is if you have a huge liability, that could really be detrimental to your financials. So we're really working at getting that liability down, and some good news here tonight. Yeah, we are going to report that way at the end of 17-18, the year we're in. And if you could scroll just a bit, I shared this at this time last year, only if you're interested. These are the terminology items. Actually, I can scroll. Did it? It's plain. Like total OPEB liability. You might remember some of these. Actuarial accrued liability has been replaced. The other one, the big one that we pay attention to is net OPEB liability. That's the new term for what used to be this unfunded accrued, actuarial accrued liability. So this is what we're paying attention to. Moving on down here, I wanted to summarize what this study, so you don't have to read the whole study, indicates. And it gives us an OPEB a total liability of 9.9 million. That's almost 10. That was just a touch higher than the prior year, but you might recall it used to be 11, close to 12, before we had the cap in place for health benefits. Our plan assets have gone up, mostly because of a couple contributions we've made, but also because very good investment returns. Our current liability is 1.9 million. Last year at this time it was almost 2.8. So we're getting that close to zero. If you wanted to look in the report, that's on page 10, and all of these numbers are also summarized on page 4. And then I just wanted to remind us, we were able to contribute $1 million last June of extra unspent funds on top of that was the year before, out of mandate cost reimbursement funds, and $553,000 last year with our funding plan over a period of 5 years. Something I wanted to also mention, okay, the key assumptions for how they calculate this are on page 17. Inflation, 2.75. Discount, basically investment return, 6.3. Trend rate of healthcare cost increases, 4%, just if you're interested in how they do the calculation. And what I wanted to just mention to you, we will bring this back to you near the end of the year, but we did establish hey, let's pay this down, $553,000 over 5 years. And with our earnings, we could actually pay that a little earlier. I might recommend in the low 6s as we get close to the year to pay it down by June 30th, 2020 instead of 21. And that would just be 3 more years. So anyway, and the last thing I want to point out to you, which is not part of the last 2 pages, could you scroll all the way down? Yeah.
This has been my
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
We can see
It's a happy day for me.
Isn't it? We're
This has
really
been a worry.
We can see that thing 2 years out.
Yeah, 2 pie charts.
To be fully funded.
Yeah, so we're really looking at fully funding our other post-employment benefits costs, which is quite an accomplishment. I did want to show you, because I don't think I've brought this to you too often, we have this trust. It is run through the league, the Community College League of California, and I think it's a well-run trust, but at June 30th, let's see. Yes, this is June 30th. So the report you just saw was based upon this. You can see we grew with those contributions that we made, and this is just a quarter return of $146,000 in economic value, ending at a little over $8 million in our trust. And just so you know, we are in a balanced fund. It's 50% fixed income, 50% equity. I kind of wish we were 100% equity this last year because everything's been so positive. But we want to stay safe. These are important assets that we want to lower our risk. So that balanced fund, this right now, I think total, this quarter was 54% because the earnings keep kicking the equity over. And then you can see some of the fixed income investments, but mostly domestic equity. If you could scoop down, very bottom of that page. I don't know how great this is, but it's fair. Our fiscal return for this year was coming in at 9.2% so far this year. And you can see how returns have bounced around prior years. And then if you'll go to the next page, that is September 30th. Even more good news. You see the $8 million that we started that trust with. Just a quarter of earnings, or
change in value anyway, market value was 210,000. And then income, some of our investments, especially our fixed investments earn income. So now we're at 8.283 million. And you can scoot on down, it has the same annual information below. So I did want you to just be aware of where we are with that, and that's good news. And any questions on that?
Questions?
Okay,
Good news for sure.
yeah. Is it time to restart?
Okay. That gets us to consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. An item may be removed from the consent calendar at the request of any member of the Board of Trustees or any person in the audience and considered as a separate item. We have 4 items on the consent calendar today. Do we have any items that need to be pulled from the consent calendar?
Item 6.
Item 6 is pulled from the consent calendar, and then I would accept a motion to approve items 7, 8, and 9.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of consent calendar items 7, 8, and 9. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's, Mr. Zumwalt, let's.
Yeah, there's an error in the minutes on page 5 under item 10. Second paragraph, it says trustee Zone asked for anything to be done to prevent the raising of the concrete. And that should say, instead of the raising, should say rising. Trustee asked for anything to be done to prevent the rising. The raising sounds like somebody's doing it, rising is it's doing it.
Coming up naturally, thank you.
Spell check, wouldn't catch that, huh?
No.
Okay, so with that correction, I would entertain a motion for approval of consent calendar item 6.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of consent calendar item 6. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right. Thank you for that. And that gets us to action items number 10.
Good evening again, and I have the new modified deleted curriculum. It is recommended that the board approve this list that has already been approved by the Curriculum Committee and the Academic Senate. On page 1, you have a list of several new courses. Part of them are for our irrigation technology program. We have MATLAB programming and history of country music and advanced irrigation as new courses. We have several modified courses. Most of these are up for a 5-year.
Oh,
5-year scared me review.
Just bit the dust, but.
You okay? Let's move that.
Scared me. Page 3 is also modified courses. Most of these are for 5-year review. Page 4, another list of modified courses, again, under 5-year review, as well as the top of page 5. And then at the bottom of page 5, we have a new skill certificate. Page 6, several modifications to skill certificates and an AAT that are up for their 2-year and their 5-year review. And the last page, page 7, we have 2 degrees that are being deleted because both of them have been replaced by the associate degrees for transfer.
questions?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of curriculum as required by Title V. Is there any additional discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Already, academic calendar, 1920.
Yeah, way ahead, 1920. So once a year, we receive guidance from the Chancellor's Office on the various requirements for the academic calendar. And following receipt of that information, the calendar task force, which includes academic services, student services, academic senate, and the 3 bargaining units get together. We meet, we review the draft calendar. So the calendar you see in front of you includes the draft or the approved calendar from the calendar task force, and that has also been taken to District Governance Senate and is now here for your approval. As you can see, the fall semester would begin on August 9th with convocation and run through December 17th with the end of finals. And our spring 2020 would begin January 10th and end on May 20th. And a couple of things we take in consideration are the various holidays, and including making sure that Veterans Day happens on Veterans Day when possible, and we've done that here, and then also not having finals on commencement day, and we've continued to follow that, as you can see here. And then this also adheres to all of the other requirements that are mandated by the state with the number of instructional days that we're required to have, and in accordance with our various contracts as well. Any questions?
Questions? Looks good?
So we've already approved 2018-19?
Yes.
Yeah, you did that one last year.
Because that's what
You
it
don't-
seems
you
so
don't
far
remember
out.
that? You don't
Yeah.
I don't
remember that?
remember that, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on our regular cycle. This
I
is our
remember you
this is our
making
next
the
one up.
motion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So would you like to make a motion, Greg?
I move we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the approval of the 2019-2020 academic calendar. Any additional questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12, Integrated Plan, Basic Skills Initiative, Student Equity, and Student Access.
Good evening, everyone. You'll recall that in the last 4 or 5 years, the state has had a number of initiatives that came about as a result of the Student Success Act of 2012. Student Success and Support Program, SSSP, was one of them. Student Equity was a second, and the Basic Skills Initiative was a third. We currently get categorical funding for all programs. The SSSP program deals primarily with matriculation, the areas of counseling, assessment, and orientation, and we get approximately $3 million a year for that program. The Student Equity program, you've been presented several times on that matter, asks us to identify our disproportionately impacted groups on campus and then put in place strategies that will bring those populations back up to the campus average. On an annual basis, we get about $1.4 million in categorical funding for student equity. And then the Basic Skills Initiative, in which we get, probably $150,000 to $200,000 a year, provides funding for wraparound support services, things like supplemental instruction, augmented instruction, tutoring, and so forth. So these are 3 great programs for the College of the Sequoias. We've been able to do a lot of great work over the last 4 or 5 years within these areas. And from the very beginning, we've tried to leverage the funds against one another and do as much as we could for as many students as possible. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case across our entire system. There are campuses that run those programs in virtual silos, where one program doesn't know what another's doing, there's some duplicate effort and things like that. So what the state has asked this year for the first time for us to do is, rather than submit a separate plan for each of those initiatives, they want us to submit one plan, and it's before you tonight. It's called our integrated plan, in which we would show how we're spending the funds and serving students in those 3 areas, but how we're collaborating with each of the 3 programs. So the report, the first couple of pages are essentially just directions for us, but pages 3 through 11 or 12 is really our opportunity to look in the rearview mirror and discuss what kind of work we've done over the last couple of years in the area of SSSP, student equity, and basic skills. Then they asked us to give an example of how we have collaborated among those programs. We have several different examples, but our best is probably the Student Success Program. You've met Juan Vasquez, who is the director of that program. I think you've also met the Student Success Coordinators as well as the Student Success Counselors from that program. And that's really been a beacon of success, and year over year we're showing more and more results. And that is a collaboration between SSSP that supplies the counselors, Student Equity that supplies the Student Success Coordinators, and Basic Skills that supplies the tutors and supplemental and augmented instruction. So we had a really good example for that. And then the last 10 or 12 pages, from probably page 13 to the end of the report, talks about what we're doing going forward to ensure that these three programs collaborate with one another. And to help us in that endeavor, the state has asked us to list 5, they call them goals, we would call them objectives. And so rather than come up with 5 new objectives, we went straight to our strategic plan. And our current strategic plan has 7 district objectives. The state's asking us for 5, so we just chose the 5 that were the best fit and really had to do with these 3 programs. And we showed in those final 10 pages, we showed how we're going to use SSSP funds, student equity funds, and basic skills funds to achieve those 5 objectives. The only, I would say, loose end to all of this is we also currently have steering committees for all 3 of those areas. That was a requirement initially, and we continue to keep 3 steering committees for each of them. As a result of this collapse of the programs, we can pare that down to 1 committee. Currently, the District Governance Senate and the Academic Senate are working together to identify the best existing committee or entity to steer this. Dr. Trimble and I, as well as our respective senates, are working on that as a 2017-18 initiative. And so this spring, we'll settle on the best existing entity for who to process and steer this work. With that, we'd recommend that you support and pass the 2017 through 19 integrated plan. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you might have.
Is there going to be feedback, or this is the first year doing it, so what happens? You turn it in and they give you feedback, or?
Generally, yes. The state, as was the case with those other 3 plans, the state will ask for volunteers from the field. And so they'll send out an email to the 214 colleges or 114 colleges and ask for volunteers to come up to Sacramento over a 3-day period and review these and give feedback. And they'll probably do the same thing for the integrated plan as well. There's not a punitive thing, it's really peer review. We've gotten some pretty good comments in the past, and that's also one of the ways that the state figured out that not everybody was collaborating with their 3 programs. And so they made some tweaks to the rules and requirements to the programs as a result of those peer reviews.
So you like it put together instead of separate then?
I do. Cautiously optimistic that some of the requirements that are still in place, we don't have to get an annual plan approved, but some of the underpinnings of those 3 plans still exist. So we still put a fair amount of work into all 3 of those plans separately, just so we can create a 4th.
Yeah.
I'd like to see, if they're going to add a plan, I'd like to see them maybe get rid of some of the other requirements.
I see.
This is a
Because
good
they're
first
still
step.
doing the 3 separate that they're requiring you to do.
Unfortunately, yes.
I think the intent, Lori, is to get those 3 separate plans into an integrated plan.
Just
Get
in the
all of
beginning.
these up, get a read through on these. One of the things I anticipate is we'll get the kind of feedback based on how well we're integrated
that would begin to relieve us of the initial plan
Plans
reporting
that were so detailed
requirements.
for each area.
If they wait until every college is far enough along to relieve us of the initial, we're probably gonna be doing double duty for a little bit longer. But we've put our best foot forward, and for us, the integrated plan, I'm not gonna speak for Jessica and Brent, who did most of the work on it, but for us, the content was there to easily demonstrate how we would integrate. I don't think every college has that same situation. That's the reason they're doing this. It's another way of assessing.
So you think they'll let some do it this way and some not, maybe?
I'm
No.
hoping,
Okay.
I'm hoping they have a threshold upon once you achieve it, you're then not required to continue some of the initial
The stuff,
stuff.
I got it.
And I think we're gonna be at the front end of meeting that threshold.
Got it. I noticed on number 11, you didn't answer that question. Is there a reason, or is there support that you need from the chancellor's office?
I could have said, stop helping, but
Well, that's what I figured if you put nothing, they're gonna get the hint that you don't need anything from them.
that's the way we felt. And-
Got it.
And thanks, Dan, for the reminder. I want to thank Jessica Morrison and Juan Vasquez for all of their help in working through this integrated plan, as well as the folks in Academic Senate and District Governance Senate for giving us really, really good feedback.
Brent, so my question was gonna be, do you get to look at what the other 100 so colleges, is that something can you look at their report, and?
Are they public knowledge?
Yeah.
They'll be posted on everybody's websites, and so
Yeah.
we can start looking at what others are doing and how they're documenting it.
And we normally volunteer to go up and be one of the leaders
Yeah,
as
so
well.
you
That's
would
been
know.
helpful over the years.
Right.
We kind of went into this year blind because there was no examples of what it should look like. But frankly, this is an area that we're very strong in as a district. When a new initiative comes in, we're no longer going off every which way trying to create new committees or create new goals and objectives. We're putting it through our governance structure, and the work gets accomplished there. So in this regard, I think our district is ahead of a lot of other districts in just the way we accomplish the work. And so writing a report was pretty easy.
Very good.
So our request this evening is that the board take action to accept this report as presented.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the integrated plan as outlined before you. Is there any additional discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Brent. Item 13, board policies, is it board policies? Board policies.
Okay, so we have before you this evening a first reading of some board policies that have been through our participatory governance review and approval process. We're working this year, if you'll recall, on the 6000s series, which is the administrative services board policies. And so you can, again, remember that if we are eliminating something, we're proposing a strike through. If you see something that's bold and underlined, that's generally new language. So we'll start with 6100. These are in the category of business, and this one is a pretty simple adjustment under delegation of authority. It's cleaning up the college name on the top of the policy and then adding alongside the board policy 6340 reference and administrative procedure that's referenced there as well. These are all non-10+1, but they have been through both Academic Senate and District Governance Senate. The next one, 6150, designation of authorized signatures. Again, cleaning up language for consistency purposes. We refer to college as district. Facsimile is outdated technology. We've updated that with the word digital. Board Policy 6200, budget preparation. Again, you can see bold and underline, incorporating new processes and documents, including the district's strategic plan. And you'll see periodically throughout these updates references to the College of the Sequoias Integrated Planning Manual, Resource Allocation Manual, and Governance and Decision-Making Manual. So those are new reference documents since these policies were last updated and reviewed. And so these are being brought into alignment with the processes in those new manuals. The next one, Board Policy 6250, is budget management. Again, stating that the general fund unrestricted reserve is established by board policy at no less than 6%, but we also added that annually the board establishes a percentage target in addition to that board policy minimum, and you do that through your annual board priorities. So in our board policy, it talks about making sure we don't let our unrestricted reserve fall below 6%, but in your board priorities in any given year, as you have this year, you're asking us to try to achieve the state average.
So I guess I'm just wondering why we would keep this so low when we know it makes sense to keep it higher, and with the state average being so much higher than that, why would we keep ours at 6? Is that pretty common, or is that something?
Yeah,
Is there a reason?
I think that the minimum recommended is a 5% reserve. We have had in board policy, since I've been here, that 6% threshold. We didn't receive direction from the board to change the BP, but what we did in this, if we weren't going to change the BP, because I guess, Lori, at some point, we may not be able to sustain a 22% reserve, or at the average if we hit a fiscal crisis. This allows us to maintain that 6% and know that through the board's annual adoption of their priorities, you can set that higher than 6% any year that you want.
And it would supersede?
And it does, right. Okay. So this year, your priority to us was to achieve at or above the state average, and the state average came in at 22%, and you saw earlier tonight we're riding at about 27. But it is the board's prerogative. If you'd like to take that 6% and bump it up, just remember what's in a board policy. We hate to ever go below that.
The board policy was 6% when I got here, and that's probably just half it.
Right.
And pick a number.
That's common. There's quite a few. I would say 5, 6 is very common, and there's 2 things that I'm aware of out there. They might be higher, but I'm not aware. And again, it is, if a fiscal crisis hits and hits fast, and then we drop the load for some reason, it takes a while to change our policy. And
Yeah, we have no choice.
We are audited that, we are, accreditation, we have to submit our annual
Yeah.
report. But still, it's really the board's prerogative.
I think I'm good with leaving alone, but if
Yeah.
you did change it, you probably should do 108.
Yeah, no, I'm good with leaving it alone. I understand that. I like the targeting here. I'm good.
Right, and the fact that we have the ability through your annual priorities to do anything we want on a year-by-year
Based on
basis.
fiscal.
And we're doing that, yeah.
All right.
All right, and then our last one on this series, 6300 under fiscal management. I just have added some language that came in under federal regulations to make sure that we were compliant. Education Department General Administrative Regulations, and then California Community Colleges reference title for their budget and accounting manual, name changes essentially. So these are here tonight for first reading. With your approval, you could waive this first reading and move these on to a second reading. They would come back to you in the month of December for a final reading and approval.
I'd like to talk about 6250 for a second.
6250.
Okay?
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought you were,
Anyway, as a kind of share some philosophy on that, is, it's during good times, a prudent board with a prudent district would want to have the numbers pretty high. But it's not for old age retirement like our 401Ks. This is when we get in trouble, and we full well expect if the state budgets are bad for a few years is to spend money rather than cut programs. And so to say I'm more comfortable with 15%, me too, but there'll come a time where we'll have a choice.
Well, we've been there.
Yeah,
So, I get
but
it.
see, when we've been there, we didn't have any reserves. And now we do, so during good times, we we should
We'll
be doing
wanna
what
spend
we're
them,
doing, but we need to recognize is there'll be a time where,
Yeah.
that's why I was
Yeah, no,
suggesting
I
that, I'd like to
get
do
it.
it the way it is.
And I'm good with that.
And, whenever I'm ready to make a motion for the rest of them, if there's no more discussion.
Yeah, listen, I appreciate your explanation, that makes sense to me. And the reason, we try to kick it up to some higher percentage is that we don't have to do things like cut summer school again.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Or worse yet, laying off people and cutting classes and,
Right. So with a reserve at where we have it established now, let's
You
just
would be
say.
able to spend that down to that level.
Yeah,
Understood.
at least you buy yourself a year or two of deficit spending, and you're still gonna have your minimum reserve above
Your
6%.
policy will do that.
Yeah.
Understood. All right.
but in my mind, the difference between 6 and the 5 minimum is so that we don't calculate quite right. We don't-
Right, exactly, exactly.
Good.
sounds like you have experience in that.
I wish I didn't, but yeah.
Okay, well, very good. So I am open to a motion.
Make a motion that we do all at once?
Mhm.
Make a motion that we take, board policy 6100, 6150, 6200, 6250, and 6300, that we waive the first reading and pass it along for a second reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to waive to the second read the aforementioned board policies. Any additional discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, item 14, approval of Workability 3 contract.
So tonight, we're seeking to continue the work that we've been doing with the Department of Rehabilitation for quite some time, at least the last 6 years. This would be, I believe, at least our third straight 3-year contract with the State Department of Rehab. This contract allows our Access and Ability Center to hire a disability counselor as well as a couple of job developers and help the Department of Rehab disabled students that we have here on campus find employment after attending here. So I feel like it's a good program, and the State Department of Rehab has been a good partner for us, so looking to re-up with them. The contract runs about $200,000 per year. It fluctuates a little bit, but about $200,000 a year is what it ends up at.
Yes, John?
How many students do you expect to help for $200,000 a year?
The goal they set annually, and it's normally between 30 and 35 students that we need to find employment for. And so that's the threshold that we're measured on.
And your historic success rate?
We've hit that. They wouldn't continue working with us if we weren't hitting that year in, year out.
Well, it's close to 100%?
Yeah.
And do the disabilities, do they vary? Like, would you put them in a similar category? Is that a program that serves a wide variety of disabilities?
It does. The spectrum is fairly broad.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to state as to how broad.
Yes.
But it is, and there's also some other criteria that allows them to be clients in the Department of Rehab. I don't think everybody's eligible, and so there's certain eligibility requirements that we don't really take part in.
That's all through them?
Yes, correct. We
Understood.
work very closely with the State Department of Rehab. They give us the students, we get them an ed plan, we get them tucked into school, and then we help them with resume building, interview skills, and developing the jobs for them. So we do have a number of outreaches here, job fairs and so forth, where we bring different employers on campus to meet our students and so forth.
Got it, understood.
Okay, very good.
Move to approve resolution 2017-18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of resolution 2017-2018. Would you please pull the board, Megan?
Trustee Cardoza?
Aye.
Trustee Abdul? Aye. Trustee Mann?
Aye.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Dunlap?
Aye.
Trustee Nero?
Aye. All right, resolution 2017-18 is unanimously approved. Resolution declaring surplus real property, 2017-17.
Okay, we have a resolution before you tonight too. It might look a little familiar, but declare the empty lot across Mooney Boulevard as surplus property. It's the one that crosses Myrtle Avenue. It's a little over 35,000 square feet. And you might recall we tried to look into extending it for a long-term lease and putting it out to market, and perhaps bringing a developer in that would develop items that were helpful or assistive to our constituents here at the community college. But we did not receive any responsive bids, timely responsive bids on that. So upon further discussion, we would like the board to consider declaring it surplus property for the purpose of selling the property. And there's quite a bit of verbiage in the resolution that we would need you to approve tonight. It's out of Ed Code, and a lot of strict guidelines and multiple steps. I tried to list those on the second page of the board agenda item, and they are also listed in the resolution a little more succinctly. But just a reminder first of the steps. First, we have to offer it for park and recreational purposes. Even before that, we would be getting an appraisal on the property. But the second is probably where some of those other interested parties may come in. In writing, we have to send it to the UCs, the California State Universities will maybe send it to Luz, and public housing authorities and things like that. And then the rest you can notify by public notice, but it's pretty much everyone else under the sun that might be governmental related or nonprofit / charitable. And after that, then you can put it out to bid. So after that, we would put it out to bid, bring the bids back here to the board for approval, again, based upon an appraised value and things of that nature. So hopefully the resolution is fairly clear on that. Yes.
When we sold the Linwood property, we put that fund, we put it in a fund that could only be used for purchase of real estate or improvement of real estate. Are we going to be able to do the same with this?
We certainly could with the board's direction. That would probably be our recommendation.
Right.
If you remember our earlier conversation, Greg, we talked about when we made the decision to draw down on the Linwood Reserve and purchase property, that if we declare this as surplus and get the sale price that we would like for it, we want to take the proceeds and replenish that Linwood Reserve Fund.
Right.
So as we get further along and we're taking specific actions, I would encourage the board to include that direction in the motion for us.
Right.
Okay?
But we don't need to do it at this.
No, right now we just are declaring it surplus.
And when you do, I'm not sure that I want to restrict it quite that much. You know, it might be that we want to spend money to develop property we already have.
Yeah, well, that would be pretty much what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I mean, when you bring back some language, suggestive number of alternatives perhaps.
Sure.
I suspect Greg meant what I just said.
Well, I said improve property, so
Oh,
I don't know what to.
I must have understood. I thought you meant buy property.
Well,
No.
yeah, I said buy property or improve real estate.
Okay.
Right.
Sure,
Right.
very good.
Right, right.
All right.
Okay, good comments.
Oh,
So,
one more thing, when you do put it out for bid, will we have a minimum?
We
We'll
can
go with the
do that.
appraisal.
We could also reject all bids. We will always have that
Right, yeah,
ability. But we could put a minimum out and we'll see what the appraisal
I'm
brings in.
getting ahead of
Yeah.
myself.
The
Okay.
appraisal will be in before we put a.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it will be in before we notify. That's our
Right.
next step after
So the
this
basis,
evening.
John, for us establishing our pricing, at least we'll start with the appraisal.
And if we don't like that value, we don't have to put it on the market.
Right. Or we can put it out to bid, and if we don't get something high enough, we can reject them and hold on a little longer.
Okay.
All right, very good. So I would accept a motion to approve resolution 17.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of Resolution 2017-17. Would you please pull the board, Megan?
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza?
Aye.
Trustee Mann?
Aye.
Trustee Zumwalt?
Aye.
Trustee Lumen?
Aye. All right, so Resolution 17 is unanimously approved as well. Item 16.
Okay.
All right, I recall this item.
You do. So it's basically an annual item now. I think someone, when our education code was created, realized that shares of water could be very valuable at some point. So they want the board to annually decide if they want to lease these, to put them out for bid. So we have 30 water shares, and we would lease the shares to the higher bidder. We could always reject all bids. Something we're doing new, different this year, is we're going to ask the bidder or the lessee to pay the annual assessment costs. Those went up significantly last year, and I think that might be something to put in there for the lessee to pay.
Who has them
So-
now? Is it by Say Unified? No.
No, they got kind of creative, so let's see, it's Tulare Irrigation District has an administrator, oh, it is, okay, so he happens to also be the administrator over Evans Ditch Water Stock. They have many holders that are along the ditch, land and property owners who own shares. They formed a consortium, and they, I don't know whether it's good for us or not, but they submitted one bid as the group.
As a
So there
district,
really
yeah, and that's
weren't
where it's going.
competitive bids coming in.
Yeah, well, that's how the
So
water world is.
Well, how did
Yeah.
that compare to the previous year?
they kept it basically at,
Same.
yeah, they kept it the way it had been.
It's a lot more than it was a few years before that.
What's that?
It's a lot more than it was.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah, at least
It's gotten
we're
better.
Well,
getting.
you know,
a little
there are
bit.
some players that if they
What
get confused,
did
like
we
say,
lease it for last year?
I am going to say 16,000, it was somewhere between 14 and 16,000, I can't quite recall the amount,
Okay,
yeah.
That's close enough.
There are other bidders like City by City that come in if they felt like it.
Yeah,
Make sure they know.
we'll make sure they know, okay.
All right, any other questions? Not, motion, please?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of Resolution 2017-19. All those in favor, please signify by
No,
saying
no,
aye.
no, that's a roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. Thank you, Earl.
Trustee Zumwalt?
Aye.
Trustee Mann?
Aye.
Trustee Cardoza?
Aye.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Lumen?
Aye. Okay, I almost made it. Almost made it.
We'll give it to you. You made it.
You did a
Okay.
Good job, Ken.
Okay, that
We lost
concludes,
half our audience.
that concludes our agenda for tonight. Thank you, all of you, once again, for being with us here today, and the meeting is adjourned.